қабат деген әкесі оған қалай күлеу болады. Бірақ сен как будто қайдан бұл хабарды алғаныңды айтпайсың. Тек менің пәлен туысым пәлен жерде қамалды деп айтасың. Маған қорғасқа келіп, емшекестен маған өстіп ұзбандады деген сөзді айтпайсың. Себебі келген адамды олар камерадан қарайды да біліп ұстап кетеді. Сен бұл хабарды қайдан алғаныңды айтпай, менің түгел туысым аты пәлен, куәлігі былай, пәлен уақытта қамалды, түгел уақытта былай. Сотталды ма?
Оны білмейміз аға, бізге
жас келіншек, ажырасты деген келіншек емес па?
Иә, шешем інісінің туған қызы. Иә, 2018 бірінші айдың 19 күні жұмыс орнынан алып кеткен.
Болды сонда.
Жоқ, сол енді әкесі мен шешесі барады ғой енді. Барса, хабар жоқ екен. Міне биыл 2 жыл болыпты. Соны енді өздері айтты, енді атты.
Тура қалқарада осы тақырып көтеріп тұр. Қазір жаңағы жоғалып кеткен адам. Өкімет айтпайды. Тұтқынданған туралы қағаз бермейді, сотталған туралы қағаз бермейді. Немесе ол адамды біз осындай тәрбиелеп қағаз бермейді. Бұл халықарада өте көтеріп жатқан ірі тақырып. Заң бойынша ол қылмыс өткізсе де, кісі өлтірсе де, ол сотталды деп қағаз береді. Соны ашып көтереді. Туыстары біледі. Әзір Қытайда ол жоқ. Сен осы жағын айтасың. Бірақ жаңағы хабар ана жерге келгенін айтпайсың. Себебі олар камера бәрін тұрып, көлік тақсақ тексереді, болды мынау екен. Сол, сен бұны айтады ма? Сен кез келген адам сұрасаң, тіпті туыстарын сұрасаң, тіпті мына қытайшылдарыңыз бар мүмкін, сен айтасың, мен басқа доғаннан тастаймын. Доғаннан тастаймын. Оғыстан болса, онда сені қауіпті адам іздеп баруын.
Іздеп барса дағы етіп құдай ұсатасын бұл жақта.
Ол да кіріп мына жаққа, WhatsApp нөмір жазып, бәрін жазып.
WhatsApp жазылды ма?
Okay.
Let's walk around the office. You will introduce to the people who are working here and tell about how the whole thing started.
Just to pretend, just like an actor.
No, not just the actors. You'll just walk around and say, this is the
introduce you.
Yeah, introduce to the key people.
Okay.
And then we'll walk around and ask you for the whole beginning of your story, how you got involved.
Okay.
Let's start from the main room, yes?
Main room, that's okay. Main room. Қазір оны түсіндіреміз. You interview me or let me say
Just naturally.
By okay? That's our new office. I moved to here from 1 week ago because we frequently kicked out so many offices, so many buildings because our local government, they don't like us. Even people, they like to give us office freely, but local government gives them pressure and they kick out. So even we pay 2 times or 3 times money every month. And that's our new offices. I don't know what time they will kick us out. But we never stop there. We not stop the help the people. Some people lost their loved ones in re-education camps in Xinjiang, China. And that's, we call them the wall of sword. That's, how could I say, let me stop.
That guy is kind of one of our, how can I say, long-term testifiers.
Mehmet, mына қасірет қабырғасы деген не деп ше?
Wall of sorrow.
Wall of sorrow.
So,
and this we call them in Kazakh language қасірет қабырғасы. It's a wall of sorrow, and this is all the families who lost their loved ones in the re-education camps. And they have so many facts. Every picture, every photo, they has different history, different tragedy, and all of the loved people living in Kazakhstan, and so many histories. That's Imam. People who connected to religions, also very common people. Arrested and sentenced in December that nobody knows. And there's so many questions. This guy about Asghar Azatbek, born in China and immigrated from China to Kazakhstan and already got Kazakhstan citizenship so many years ago and abandoned the Chinese citizenship. by law and by notarial documents, and cancelled his Chinese household registration and citizenship by law in China. But Chinese government arrested kidnapped him at Kazakhstan territory 3 years ago. In Kazakhstan territory, he was kidnapped by Chinese agents in free economic zone between Kazakhstan and China in Horgos custom in Kazakhstan. Now Chinese officials sentenced him as a spy, and his crime is espionage, and the Chinese government said he is a Chinese citizen. But he already cancelled the Chinese citizenship, already got Kazakhstan citizenship. That kind of person is so more, and we could say so many people, just like this is a disabled person, Mirzan Bakit Khan, and he connected the Islamic imam and worked as imam by the permit of government, by the license of Communist Party, also arrested, and he lost his legs also. He is a disabled person, also arrested and sentenced for so long time. And this is 4 persons in one family. 4 persons in one family. All of them family name is Oralbek. In one family. This is a very famous writer, intelligent person, translator, and a filmmaker. And he writes so many books, I think around 10 books, and translated so many videos from Chinese language to Kazakh language. And he is an editor, journalist also before. And Dilshat Oralbay is a very famous person in Kazakh society. Even in China and even at Kazakhstan, so many people know about him. He is an intelligent person, writer, so many books. Even when we are young, we read his so many articles from the journals, newspapers, and his books. And he also arrested and sentenced. And his sister, Baktugul Oralbay, both of them is Oralbay, Dilshat, Oralbay Jurat, Oralbay Baktugul, Oralbay Bagila. And this is journalist. She worked in a Quito newspaper, and both of them arrested. And he stayed there, he worked at Ili Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture at the local television, government and local television, arrested. And this is Bagila Oralbay, business lady. And this is one of the retired person from the agricultural bank of Ili Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture. In one family, 4 persons. 2 of them are intelligent persons, arrested and sentenced for long years, different, 18 years, 20 years, 35 years, different.
Do you know anybody from this wall? Have you known them personally?
Personally?
Yeah.
By face?
Yeah. Have you met them? Like,
how could I say? By... Let me...
His mother is there too still. So
this guy, this
they
person.
are not allowing his mother to leave. She can't even feel if she's not detained. So that's one other reason why police has been called.
Nabir Allah Askerbi. Everybody knows
That's
him.
also not
He's an
common.
imam,
People
and he studied at the Islamic Institute ruled by Chinese government in
their
Uluchi.
relatives there.
And he worked at the political, how could I say, political bureau of the Chinese government. He met with Chen Chongwa himself in political bureau, and he met with Xi Jinping. Also arrested and sentenced. This guy, everybody knows about him. He is a very famous person. Very famous person. His name is Nabigada Askerbi. And he did it at the March 2018. Without any reason. Without any reason. And the next one is
Serikjanga, let's proceed to the other rooms.
Another room.
Can you try to be more from your personal point of view
About relocation camps or
about your story,
our organization?
about your story and this organization?
Okay. Another room?
Ay sayın bulamam. So basically
This is our volunteers working for us without any salary. This lady working at Astana, but she has 2 weeks free time and to help us to help the people writing papers to our foreign affairs ministry and the president or other organizations. Guzira Awelkhan is one of the #1 person who said about forced the labor factors. Who now Chinese government forced the Kazakhs, Uyghurs, Kyrgyzs, and arrested the millions of Kazakh, Uyghur, Kyrgyz, and forced them to work for Chinese government without any salary, just like slavery. Slavery. That Guzira Awelkhan stayed at education camps 1.5 years, and she was forced to work in factory 2 months. And also, her 2 daughters stayed in China. Chinese government kept her 2 daughters as a work. Now she is the first person who stand up the chance about inside the life of re-education camps and the chance about the forced labors at Ili Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture. And that factory called the Jafang factory. That's it. And this is our American friends, Darren Weiler. We have so many foreign guests, researchers, journalists every day and every week. And different journalists, different people, so they want to interview us and write us because our ATAJURT team is only one organization who offers the world more than 3,000 video testimonies and more than 10,000 facts about the re-education camps. And now Chinese government said that there are no re-education camps, but we could say to the world that there exist re-education camps. Now everything is changed to jail, and the people began to send to inner China from Xinjiang. And the people began to work in the factory located underground, and the Western people can't watch it from the Sputnik, from the sky. And now underground the factory is more and more built in, especially in Ili Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture in Xinjiang. And thousands of Kazakh, Kyrgyz, Uyghurs now sent to inner China from Xinjiang. And there was signed the one unfair agreement and against their willingness, and was forced to working for Chinese private or governmental factories. Sometimes you want to go mosque, but I don't like to go mosque. Because if I go mosque, the Chinese government said, he is an Islam radicalist.
Yeah, always told.
Because Chinese government, they want to find any kind of excuse, any kind of reason, he will say. And if people that have a little hat, Kazakh hat, they said radicalist or nationalist. A little Kazakh hat, national hat. Do you know that?
Yeah.
They said nationalist. And they will say it is racist or radicalist. That's enough for Chinese government. And
Serikжан, let's try to go back in time to your childhood.
Tell
about your story, like where you were born, how was your childhood, how Serikžan, your identity was growing up in Xinjiang. Tell us where you were born and the beginning of your life.
I'm born in China, and my childhood is a happy childhood, and I born my parents are teachers, and my father is director of one high school, and he's a very famous person in our prefecture, in our town, and he entered 3 times in Chinese encyclopedia. 3 times, because he built #1 higher school for Kazakh nomadic people. Because before 1981, there are no school in our hometown for Kazakhs. And all Kazakhs only studying in Chinese language or Uyghur language, and most of them in Chinese language. And the Kazakhs don't like send their children to Chinese school. So my father write the letters to the Beijing and the Urumqi, but never respond to that. And while the Cultural Revolution in Mao Zedong time, my father was arrested and punished by Chinese Communist Party for 10 years. After the Cultural Revolution finished, my father write again the papers to government, said he want to build one school for Kazakh nomadic people, because nomadic, you know, in summer, in winter, autumn, spring, every time they change, moved from one grasslands to second grasslands, you know, that's nomadic life. And in winter, there are some mountain, next spring is another mountain, and at autumn is another mountain, and at spring or summer is next to big grasslands, and nomadic people like that, you know, in nomadic life. In Xinjiang Kazakhs, ethnic Kazakhs who living in Xinjiang, they are the ancient nation, and Chinese government said there are only 1.5 million Kazakhs, but we never believe that, because in one little county like Xinjiang County, Kazakh county, there are living 150,000 Kazakhs in central of county. How could we believe there are only 1,500,000 Kazakhs living in Xinjiang from 1981 to 2011? And from 1981 to 2000, almost 30 years passed, but the Kazakh population is 1,500,000. So my father has built that school high school to the nomadic people, the children from the people from the first class to 11th class or 10th class stay at school, and everything, the food and the dress, everything is offered by the school. It's not first time in China also. And that's just like one company, because they have 2,000 ships and 200 lands for agriculture, and 60 move for the schools themselves, and 8 move for the tomato, potato, and in the school, inside of the school, and everything offered themselves, and the parents didn't pay even 1 yuan to the school for their children. But after 2000, I immigrated from China to Kazakhstan. After I finished my university, I started economics. After I moved to Kazakhstan, I began to work as a businessman. And I buy from China, sometimes I buy from Malaysia or Turkey, and Hong Kong, Taiwan. I'm a little businessman, not so rich, but it is my money is enough for me when I am only 25 years old, 2000. And everything is okay in Kazakhstan. But after that, I never involved, I never connected any kind of political problems before re-education camps beginning in Xinjiang. And sometimes I really help the people, especially the Chinese government controlling the Kazakhs, and they make economic pyramids in inner China, and they moved 10,000, 100,000 Kazakhs from Xinjiang to inner China, especially called Guilin, Chongqing, Zunyi. And after that I stand up and tell the people that pyramids is against law, against humanity, and how could they earn money from the people. And I said writing articles and organizing people to fight against pyramids, economic pyramids. The trick, how could I say? It is just a trick for Kazakhs. And after that there happened, there are some problems. Ethnic Kazakhs, it is difficult to get visa from the Kazakhstan visa center. We call them consulate at Urumqi. And the 10,000 Kazakhs waiting 1 or 2 years to get one visa. And after that, I also organized the people to fight with them. After that, the consul, the responsible person arrested them and the sentence them. But the way the problem is solved. And after that, Kazakhs get freely get multiple visa for 1 year to Kazakhstan, the ethnic Kazakhs who in China. And after that, I also began a little, not so big works. I just helped the Kazakhs who visited Kazakhstan, helped them to how could they study in higher schools or university, help them just to teach them if some people is meeting difficult problems, I help them, but not before the re-education camps begin. I don't go public, and I'm just write the one books in internet. We call the 1001 times travel, because I like to travel all over the world, and everywhere I travel, I just write on our websites, and that I never published it. It's just on internet, and I have millions of readers who followed me every day when I am writing just a little, and there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of people reading, and I'm the #1 writer for the Kazakh youngs on internet. I'm not a classic writer. I'm just an internet writer. And an internet writer is a new, fresh things to the Kazakhs also, because Kazakhs also, all of the Kazakh writers, they like to publish their books, just like classic books, but I don't like. I never publish it, and I put it just on internet, because it is very easy to read to young people, because I want to teach the young Kazakhs, and I call the ethnic Kazakhs immigrate from China to Kazakhstan immediately, because I watch it. The Chinese government began to harder and harder to the ethnic minorities, especially the Uyghurs. I know how Chinese killed the millions of Tibetans. I know it. I know how Chinese arrested the hundreds of thousands of Uyghurs. I know how Chinese Communist Party killed the tens of thousands of Uyghurs at the 5th of July 2009. You know, the 5th of July, that I have one big demonstration in Urumqi city, and there I have a big conflict between Han Chinese and Uyghurs, and more than 10,000 of Uyghurs, we don't know how many they are, more than 10,000 Uyghurs disappeared suddenly in 1 week, and the Chinese police arrest any Uyghurs around Urumqi city. In that case, I'm in Urumqi city. And so I watched it by my own eyes, everything. And while they arresting hundreds of Uyghur young guys, I watch it. Because it is just like hunting. Chinese police just like hunting, and they can arrest everybody who walking on the street, and they can kick out any kind of doors if the Uyghur communities, especially in Ardavchal, we call it Dongkor, Ardavchal, any Uyghurs. If they said you are Uyghurs, arrest them. And sometimes they arrest Kazakh Kyrgyz also, who the face is similar to Uyghurs, also arrested together. But no information published. Government said they are the terrorists. And after that, I began to work. My article began to work on websites. We call the Kultega. Websites and Senkazak, after then Bozbala.com, that kind of websites. I began to write it, and the people is, how could I say, republish it on my articles on another websites. More than 50 websites republished my articles. In that time, I began to tell the Kazakhs, you have only one choice: to immigrate immediately from China to Kazakhstan. There will happen a big genocide soon. You will lose yourselves in China, because they are so dangerous. Chinese Communist Party now going every day, they going to worse every day, and they begin to harder and harder to ethnic minorities. I tell to the Kazakh youngs openly on internet, and thousands of Kazakhs followed me, and they changed their idea. They give up their good jobs, good salaries, $1,000 or $2,000 salary in 1 month, and they immigrated from China to Kazakhstan, because at Kazakhstan the economic situation is not good enough than China, and so more Kazakh young people, they don't like immigrate from China to Kazakhstan also, because of economic situation, corruption, and how could I say, bureaucracy. It is very difficult to living at Kazakhstan at that moment. But I said, it is just a time problem. The bureaucracy, the corruption, we will solve it. Everything can solve it. Because the Kazakhstan, maybe it is not like China, not so rich. Even we are the oil-rich country, but maybe after 20 years, we will build a strong Kazakh country, a strong one Turkey country. But in China, you haven't any kind of future. You lost themselves, your culture, your religion, your language, any kind of identification of your nation. We are lost. And the Chinese government, Chinese Communist Party, we all, how could I say, format yours and make a cultural genocide to any kind of ethnic minority. But how could I say, what is ethnic minority? That land belongs to Uyghurs and the Kazakhs. Thousands of years ago, maybe more than 3,000 or 5,000 years ago, our ancient living two sides of Tian Shan mountain. We call the Tian Shan mountain ERIKTILERI, Tang'er-Tao. The mountain belongs to us. In one side of Tian Shan mountain, Uyghur people are living, and the next side of Tian Shan mountain, the Kazakh people are living. And the Kazakh people, the places, grasslands, waters, rivers, lakes, and that territory belongs to us from thousands of years ago, before Chinese occupied it. And how could they make a genocide to us? How could they force us to study their languages? I write it on my article, 1001 times travel, in Kazakh language, Mung Bir Safar. And after then, it really happened there. And my work is began from the 2014, I really say, 2014, while we heard that Xinjiang will come to rule, and Xinjiang as a #1 Communist Party secretary acting in Xinjiang. We heard about it. And after that, I began to stop my writings, because writings is just to the young people who can open internet or using computers. And I began to speak lecture, because I am a good lecturer in Kazakh language. My Kazakh language is good than any Kazakhs in Kazakhstan, because my language is, how could I say, my language is literary language and historical. My vocabulary is more historical than local Kazakhs. And the people like to listen to me. So I began to speak in WeChat and WhatsApp and YouTube, and I call the people immigrate immediately from China to Kazakhstan. And the dangers will begin because I know Xinjiang controlled Tibet before they came to Xinjiang, and I know what happened in Tibet while Xinjiang is a governor. So I know Xinjiang is a killer, he is a genocide maker, and I call the people, the danger is coming, the genocide will coming, and the hundreds of thousands of people will arrested by government. So just make a passport, because you know Kazakh University living in China without passports. They has only Chinese ID cards, enough for them, but no passports. If some Kazakhs or Uyghurs want to get passports, it is very difficult in China. From the 2000 to 2015, it is very difficult. And then nowadays it is difficult than 1,000 times difficult than in that time. And even me, 2000 year, 20 years ago, while I went to get my passport from Chinese police, and it is difficult to fly to moon, just like flying to moon. It is so difficult. I costed 1.5 years to get one passport. I let my friends, relatives send 10 times invitation letter from Kazakhstan, from Germany, from US. Chinese government, Chinese police said it is fake invitation letter and they never make a passport to me. They don't allow me to go out, but after then I find some people give money and invite them to restaurant, sauna. I cost more than 10,000 yuan, more than 10,000 yuan. I got my passport and after that immigrated immediately. And then now I began to speak in lecture on WeChat and tell them more than thousands of people, maybe more than thousands, I don't know correctly, people is immigrated already. But after that really in China, especially in Xinjiang, the re-education century began. I know it really happened. And at the beginning 2014, the Chinese government or Chinese policemen visited the Kazakhs or Uyghurs politely. Could you go with us and we have some training center and teach you ideological, political knowledge by free. In 2013, 2014, 2015, very quiet. Because the government gives the money. The local government will get money from the central government, from Beijing, for every person. If there one person maybe will get 10,000 yuan, maybe 10% will get 100,000 yuan. And everything is very quiet. That's just the people who invited them by government and send it to the education council, they will not separate them. They will stay at a little hotel and without any documents. And the hotel's big door is closed and the already some room outside, but not without chains. Not chains. Everything is so quiet. Just forwarding your printer that you could study in knowledge. And the Chinese Communist Party's member or teacher will tell this people non-stoply about political Marxism, Mao Zedong, and about that kind of Marxism knowledge. But after then, beginning of 2016, that politics changed immediately. Now, the policemen will kick out. That lady agreed with us to stay at Kazakhstan. Even her parents called her non-stoply in 100 times in one day, require her go back China because Chinese police visited her parents' house non-stoply. Let your daughter go back immediately from China to Kazakhstan. Even this young girl get official Chinese passport by law, personal passport by law, and get Kazakhstan visa by law, by ticket by law, by the permit, the local government, she buy air ticket. And after this, the local government sent so many police to her parents' house and give pressure to them, require them call daughter. And let not policemen call this lady themselves. Let their parents call them and say, if she didn't go back, if she can't go back China, immediately, only 2 days, they said, after that 3 days, in that time, she will arrest her parents. And this lady answered that, I'm 19 years old, almost 20 years. If it is crime, it is my crime, not my parents' crime. Now, my parents is crying is also. That's China. So, let us begin. From the 2013 and 14, I began to publish my lecture on social media. And I began to say about Chinese history, how Chinese occupied Central Asia, how Chinese occupied the Uyghurs lands, Kazakhs lands. I said the history about the East Turkestan Republic, and that's forbidden in China. And the Chinese government said East Turkestan revolution is 3 counties revolution. They call the Sanqu Gemi. But we call it East Turkestan Republic because East Turkestan Republic built in Ining County, Ining City. Just now Ining City belongs to Ili Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture. And my uncle is one of the soldiers of East Turkestan Republic. And he died in 2006. So I know so much history, secret histories about East Turkestan Republic, and I began to tell to the young people on social media and let them know what happened 100 years ago almost in Xinjiang, China. What happened in Nilika County, who is about our national hero Akbar and the Saint, who is our national hero Mr. Osman Batar, and in Turkey language called Osman Batar. And I said how the Kazakhs, Uyghurs, Kyrgyzs fight with the Han Chinese, the Kuomintang Chinese, and how the communist Chinese, and how all the history, who is Daniel Khan Sugurbai, who is Sayyid Nazis, who is Burhan Shahidi, who is our famous writer Kajumar Shabdan. Kajumar Shabdan, he stayed at Chinese jail 40 years, 20 years in Kuomintang times, and more than 20 years in Communist Party times. And all the history, I said people, and let them know the history will restart again. Restart again. And the genocide will begin from the Chinese Communist Party. And I let them just run out of that territory. Just run. Without any reason, without any questioning. Because Chen Chuangbo is coming, Xi Jinping is coming, it means the genocide is coming. And I began to send that kind of lecture from 2013 and 2014, and I began to famous persons, especially the common Kazakh people from the 2015, and the people began to arrest from the 2015. And the ATAJURT is began to work first is on social media. Because my fellows, we organized so many WhatsApp, WeChat groups. It's our WeChat and WhatsApp groups is more than 1,000. Every my followers, the volunteers, they control hundreds of WhatsApp and WeChat groups, and we add the people secretly and send that kind of information and audio lectures to them by secretly. And hundreds of thousands of groups we began in one time by controlled in one center, and we call this Жарқын жеті ағартушылық дәрісханасы. And we call it Жарқын жеті ағартушылық дәрісханасы. It is my pen name. It's my nickname, pen name, and I write that my article in websites just with that pen name in Жарқын жеті. And my that studio, my virtual team called it Жарқын жеті ағартушылық дәрісханасы. It's just a Жарқын жеті education center. Jargon Education Center. and we have symbols, we have articles, we translate some articles from English and Chinese to Kazakh, and non-stoply organizing people, especially the famous people, writers, tell the lecture to the Kazakh people. Let them immigrate without any reason, without any question. Immigrate from China to Kazakhstan. And from the 2016, Chinese began to arrest Kazakhs. And at the beginning, the Kazakhs afraid of Chinese Communist Party. Nobody agreed to tell their loved ones or family members arrested in Xinjiang. But at the spring at the March, April of 2016, we began to collect that kind of information from people. And the people began to say us because they believed me. And we collected that kind of people who arrested them, and their name, even name, and why, who is a teacher or doctor or common shepherd or businessman, and collecting that kind of information secretly, and from not only one person and second person, third person, their relatives. And after that, we send this information to the Western media. First published in our social media, and after that we send it to the Western media. And from the 2016, especially the number one, the media is Radio Free Asia began to publish the facts about Kazakhs already arrested and lost suddenly without any reason, without any legal process. Illegally arrested them, illegally sentenced them, and even their family members don't know, because the policemen will arrest one husband, and even housewife and their children don't know why and where and how long time you will release it. Nobody knows, and the Chinese government forbid the Kazakhs never ask question. If you visit police bureau again, we will arrest you without any reason. Nobody political reason, just arresting and arresting. And our team changed it suddenly, and we built one WhatsApp group next time. Қытай қазақтарын қорғау. One group, after the next group, after the third group, we built the WhatsApp groups. Қытай қазақтарын қорғау. Protect ethnic Kazakhs in China. And that protect group we built 10 groups, and all 10 groups are volunteers, and every people build the 10 groups for their classmates, relatives, and the people who came from same town. And we began hundreds of groups we built, and just collecting the facts from the Kazakhs who lost their loved ones, classmates, the neighbors, teachers, or any kind of relatives, loved ones, arrested, give us the facts, and we confirm it, check it, really and not. Arrested and released or lost, just lost, without any. We collect hundreds of facts and collect it and publish to local media. But after soon, local media closed. Nobody want to write about it. Every one website, not national TVs, not national television, not national radio, even the free journalists who write social media, they don't like to talk about the Kazakh problems in Xinjiang, China. They received order from their bosses. And after that, we began to connect the foreign media. I non-stoply writing to the foreign media, BBC, CNN, Radio Free Asia, Chinese Mandarin section and English section and Uyghur section. I wrote to the Daily Mail, and I wrote so many hundreds of Associated Press, so many world famous media I non-stoply write it, and they begin to make attention to us. And we just collecting this information on internet from our volunteers. And after that, at the spring of, at the middle of 2016, we went to meet each other, our volunteers. We met each other and we built one group called the double. Double is just alarm. Double. And then all the volunteers we met at Almaty and we went to work. We planned how could we help the Kazakhs. And we planned that first. We organize the people and let them require from our government to solve this problem and talking with the Chinese side by diplomatic way, because Kazakhstan and China is a diplomatic neighbor and good friends, and they are the member of the Shanghai Association, and we went to organize the people, writing papers to our president, writing paper to our foreign affairs ministry and our deputies. And after then, we find it is not working, it is not helpful. And after that, we began to let the Kazakh society to pay attention to us. How could let the society pay attention to us? We told and we went to organize one conference. And that's it. I collected the first person who Farida Kabilbek. Farida Kabilbek is our team member Ғалым Серікжан's wife, mother. And Farida Kabilbek's husband, Серікжан Зейнолла, was arrested in China 2004, and the Chinese government sentenced him for 13 years by espionage, working as a spy to Kazakhstan national security. And he is an uneducated person. How could he working as a spy? Uneducated person. So I collected Mrs. Farida Kabilbek, and the second person is also one of the guy who came from my hometown, called Jumadan. And his father arrested and sentenced for 10 years without any reason. First arrested, sent to re-education center. After that, immediately sentenced for 10 years. And the second person is one of the famous journalists' mother, because this journalist Genghis-Khan Bagdal arrested in Ulumuchi. He worked in Xinjiang television in Kazakh edition, Kazakh sector, and he was arrested by Chinese officials without any reason, no judgment, no papers, no lawyer. And I called his mother, and his mother visited us, and the three victims made video testimonies, and I made video testimonies first from the Jumadan, our team member. Jumadan is a medic, doctor now. And these three persons said we invited some writers, also our team members, Nurhan Sultanbay. Nurhan Sultanbay is a writer and a member of the Kazakhstan Writers Association, and he visited that conference, and we held one conference, first time conference in 2017. And all the people who Farida Kabilbek, which their husband arrested and sentenced was 13 years in China by espionage. Second is Jumada, her father arrested and sentenced for 10 years. Third is the journalist Genghis-Khan Bagdal's mother. All the three of them, all of them we know face to face. And the conference is held before 2 days before the fifth World Kazakh Congress. The 5th World Kazakh Congress is open at our capital Astana, now called Nur Sultan. And before the Congress began, we planned the conference immediately because we went to let the Congress pay attention to the Kazakh problem in China. And our first conference is very successful. And the local television, local newspaper is published about it. Because we paid to all of them. We paid the money, all of them. And published in China really happened education center, people is lost without any reason. Our local TV already published, especially in local websites. And at the conference, one Kazakh said about the education center. The Kazakh called it М.Мақатаев. He born at Turkey, now citizen of Germany, and his father born at China, and you know, while the Communist Party occupies Xinjiang, East Turkestan, they killed thousands, hundreds of thousands of Kazakhs, and the Kazakhs, the followers of Osman Bator, is escaped from Xinjiang to Tibet, and after Tibet to escape to India, Pakistan, and after then they escaped to Turkey. And the М.Мақатаев is one person who escaped from China, and his father escaped from China. And М.Мақатаев said one good speech on that Congress and said, Mr. President and the Mr. people who, all the ladies and the gentlemen, please pay attention. Now in China, they are beginning a new genocide, a cultural genocide. Kazakhs, now they arrested without any process, without any law. And how could we keep silent? And he make one good speech at that Congress. And after that, our work is began, and we, the first Congress organized by me and by my friends at that time. And after that, we meet each other frequently, and I non-stoply publishing my speech about Kazakhs, and I teach stand up and being brave and tell just if your friends, classmates, or loved ones, family members are arrested, please just stand up and say the chast and visit our office, and we will help you, and writing papers to our foreign affairs ministry, writing letters to our president and the United Nations and all over the human rights organizations all over the world. And after that we began just like it. And after that, all Kazakh society began to pay attention to us. And the more people visit us every day, especially from the October of 2018, every day, more than 100 of people, sometimes 80 people, sometimes 90 people, and the maximum record is from the January of 2018, 147 people visited us, and we recorded a video testimony for 147 persons in one day. And before Kazakhstan National Security arrested me at the night of 11th March 2019, at that day we worked non-stoply, and every day 100, 120, 130, that kind of people, every day. And we invited so more translators and volunteers, especially the local volunteers, because they pay attention to their brothers, sisters, their nation who live in China, especially the Turkic minorities. And the people began to help us without salary, volunteers. And one lady, I already forgot her name, she began to translate to German. And the next lady, she began to translate to French. And one Uyghur, Serikžan, Ayupov, local Kazakhstani Uyghur, and he lost his wife in China. Chinese government arrested his wife, and 3 or 4 years, their family broken, and his wife in camps now. Serikжан Ayub. And he translated all victims to Arabic. And Mr. Kalman Koshigit, our team member from Turkey, he translated all victims, all video testimonies to Turkish, sometimes to English. And our team member who live in Turkey, Babsaleh Mokhtar, he translated all our video testimonies to Turkic and published in our social media, call it Kazakh Haber, Kazakh News. And so many, especially the last one, local Kazakh girl, call it Karima Abdike, Karima, familiası qalay Ғалым?
Karima Abdurrahmanova.
Abdurrahmanova, Karima Abdurrahmanova. She translated it to Russian, and she translated to English in one time. And I translated it to Chinese, English also.
Let's go back to that day when you were arrested by
National Secretaries.
National Secretaries. Let's go back to that day. What you did? How it was very sudden, as I remember. And how did they put pressure on you? And how did they? What kind of methods they used? And what kind of impact it had on your family, on your daily life?
Okay. And before they arrested me, the Chinese soft power attacked us first, from the beginning to now. Chinese soft power, the people who working for Chinese government, or the people who earn money from China, the pretended so-called businessmen, or so-called politicians, or so-called intelligence writers and purchase. And they call them Chinese, they call themselves overseas Chinese, and they registered the overseas Chinese organizations at Kazakhstan. And they also registered the overseas Chinese organizations in Beijing and get that status from United Front from China. And the United Front, you know, one of the soft power organizations, and every year there has $10 billion budget to help the overseas Chinese outside of China. And in Kazakhstan also there has 3 or 5 overseas Chinese organizations registered by law, and we don't know how many of them is working underground secretly. And these guys began attack us openly, and they said we are provocator, and the ATAJURT members are destroying the friendship between China and Kazakhstan, destroying the diplomacy between China and Kazakhstan. And we discussed with them on internet from the 2016, and we said hundreds of thousands of Kazakhs arrested by Chinese officials without any law, without any reason. And it is not broke our friendship. It is not broke our diplomacy. And how could I say, the people who lost their loved ones just stand up and they're crying, I lost my husband or I lost my wife, and it will be dangerous to diplomacy? We just say what happened in China. And the people just say what happened to their family in China. And it is dangerous to friendship. And for friendship, do you want to let us close or never say the chance? And after that, thousands of articles published in Kazakhstan websites and newspapers and magazines. Thousands of articles against me and against our ATAJURT team. The articles, we haven't time to read it. One published it and the next one published it. And they could write anything on me. They said I'm an Islamic radicalist. They said I'm a spy of China. They said I'm a spy of America. They said I'm get money from Arabian or American. They said I'm a radicalist. Any kind of things. They want to, how could I say? They want to let people hate me. Because I'm a spiritual leader, more and more every day people begin to like me. And this thing, I'm a leader to the Kazakhs, especially who born in China and the heads. Because hundreds of thousands of wives lost their husbands and they living at Kazakhstan without any economic income and with young children. And we organize the people, help that kind of ladies who lost their husbands. And we call them alive widows. Not widow, not true widow. Their husbands is exit, but lost. So we call them terrorists. Because we are illegal ATAJURT.
Let's see this moment, how they took you away by force.
Okay, that day. Әгі мен ұстайтын 6 адам келді ме офиске?
Иә.
Сенде фотолар бар ма?
Бар.
Тапшы. In that day, the 10th March 2019, as usual, we held one conference in our big hall at that moment. In that time, we have one office with 7 rooms and also one big hall. 100% can held one conference at that time, and more than 20 journalists can in one hall and can visit us. At that moment, our team member find 6 persons is very special, not usual, not like the Kazakhs who immigrate from China. The face is so cold, now without any papers. All our visitors, they have papers about their loved ones who lost in China, about the loved ones who arrested in China or lost. That 6 guys, without any papers, without any documents, just visited our office, and our team member asked them, are you the people who want to make video testimonies? As they said, yes. But no papers, no any photos, documents, and all of them has, how could I say?
Headphones.
Huh?
Headsets.
Headsets on the earth, just like agents, not common people, not Kazakhs from China, just like agents, and all of them are so tall and chained people, and so cold. And our team member asked roughly, who are you? Show your documents. Why do you staying in our, because we have 7 rooms. And after that they run out from our office and run away. And Mr. Kalman Koshevit and our cameraman Ғалым, and followed after them, and they ran away, disappeared. And we called them policemen in that day. We have all videos and photos. Policemen said, yeah, we will soon. And that's our office at that time, only 500 meters away, that place. In Bekzat 50, and the office number 700 and drop 1. And that policemen, even the policemen didn't arrest that guys who stayed at the street. They didn't arrest. We said that people is unnormal people visited us, and after we questioned them, run away. How could they didn't arrest or question? Just ask them to show their ID cards. Police never listened to us, and after that we believe that all the peoples are from government. Just wait some minutes. Yeah.
Сега не туалеттің кілтісі дейді ғой.
Да, машинам деген.
Құлап тастамасақ.
Сен былай істе. Менің машинам 7-ші этажда тұр. Мына тура осы зданияны.
Қалай шығады?
Кілтім. Міне, мынадан шыға саласың. Жоқ, ана бірінші этаждан шықсаң, мынадан шығатын есік бар. Ана тонымның қалтасында тұр машина. Бірақ сен машинаны құлыптағанды ұмытып кетпе.
Қоя салайын деп атып, мен шыға саласың.
7-ші этажда.
Жоқ, қазір өзіңіз босайсыз ғой, иә?
Өзің босайын. Оған дейін шыдайсың ба?
Жоқ, ашықтың құлап тастайық деген ғой.
Вот.
Тастайық.
Вот.
Шыдайсың ба?
And at that moment, we recorded the videos and I made one announcement that the people maybe come from China, maybe Chinese agents who kill us or make waiting. Okay. And maybe it is just a man-made problem to us. Man-made problem.
A deliberate.
Yeah.
And we made one announcement in that moment, and we published it in
Sorry.
our.
Let's just take the chance to change the battery.
Make a problem.
Someone's car just.
Okay.
Let's proceed even if it's.
Maybe some another place far from it. How could you see? That's enough. And after then, the 6 people disappeared. Even policemen didn't question them. Even policemen didn't require them show the ID cards. And after that, we made one announcement, video announcement, that the 7 unknown dangerous person visited us. Maybe our office will close. Maybe our computers will lost. Maybe our documents will lost. But I made an announcement that we have one copy. All the 10,000 of video testimonies, all the papers which translated to English, Russians, Kazakhs, the appeal letters written to President or another organizations or Foreign Affairs Ministry or United Nations. We prepared the copy once and we sent it to European and American already 1 week ago. And I announced that if any kind of people want to occupy or confiscate our documents, video testimonies, it is impossible because copy one already sent to America and Europe. Even you confiscate all of the computers inside of our offices, it is useless. We already copied it and sent it all over the world. At that time, my team member went to send me to my house, but while our three cars arrived in front of my house, they said there are so many abnormal persons, abnormal, tall guys, taller than average people, abnormal cars and so on. After that, they gone back and they said let me stay at hotel. At that hotel, ана hotelдің аты не еді?
Кім?
Бекзат мен ұсталатын hotel. Рахат Palace ба?
Yeah.
One 3-star or 4-star famous hotel at Almaty, call it the Rahat Palace. And I'm stayed at hotel in that time because my friends and they paid that money. What more? Just a minute. Okay. Just a minute.
Болды, söyle.
Söylemez mi?
Söyleyebiliriz.
And my friends, they paid for the hotel and let me stay at hotel number 8th floor. And that's 10th evening at midnight, at the 11th midnight, after the 10th march is finished, around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. The door is abnormal. There is something is moved in our door. Something is the sound, something outside the door. I wake up and I asked, who is there? Nobody asked, and they began to, how could I say, take that, knock that, not with foots, tip that, tip.
Yeah, they're not.
No, black one, but black.
Yeah.
Very hardly. And they already has electronic key. But inside the door, they have a very little cheap iron chain, some timber one. That just kept me. And the first time I think it is really dangerous. Maybe I'm dying. I think maybe more. And I asked, who are you? Nobody answered me. And they knocked the door hardly and hardly, pushed the door, and the door is open, just like this. And all the iron iron chain is kept us. Who are you? I asked again. Nobody answered. And after that, I saw more than 15%. More than 15%. I called the hell, помогите in Russian. Көмектесіңдер in Kazakh. Nobody answered me. And after that, they broke the chain, iron chain, and entered our house. And after that, they said, we are the policemen from our capital. In that time, our capital called it Astana. And we will arrest you by the crime of our number 174 and second crime. 174 second crime. And that means 10 years jail. Everybody knows 174 is famous crime like our basic criminal law, and it is 10 years. 10 years jail life. I said, okay, I'm so calm. No shouting, no fighting with them. I'm so calm. I don't know why. Because I know sooner or later it will be happen on me. I believe that. Because before they arrest me, they warned me 4 times by paper. National securities, all papers now in my car. 4 times they warned me. If you organize an unpermitted conference, you will arrest and put to jail for 7 years. If you organize unpermitted conference or unpermitted organizations, you will arrest them. 4 times they arrested me by paper. And 1 time they invited me to Greece Police Bureau and recorded the videos and they said Zanglı Tsudru explains the law and it is dangerous, your action, your activity is dangerous. And they said, if I not obey to them, they will arrest me and sentence me for 7 years or 10 years. 4 times, and 2 times they arrested me before. Just sent me to the police bureau, questioned 2 or 3 hours after they released me. And that's, I use it to do it. And every day happen. I'm so calm, I'm not angry, I'm not shouting with them. I said, if you call me, to visit the police bureau of our capital, I will buy air ticket and fly to you. Why do you come from our capital to us, costing so more money to government? It is just costing money. 50% from Astana to arrest me. And they said they began to work and they confiscated my 6 mobile phones. I have 6 mobile phones. 1 mobile phone connecting to the common people, 2nd mobile phone connecting the foreign journalists, 3rd mobile phone to my relatives, my family members, that kind. 6 mobile phones they arrested, confiscated my bank cards, ID cards, all my belongings, all of them was confiscated by them. And they began to write on paper. It cost almost maybe 2 hours or 3 hours. Everything, even a little paper found from my pocket, the bank kvitanция, bank checks, numbers, even my coins which paid to the parking, everything they write very clearly, and my mobile phone serial number, email number, write it clearly, and they confiscated my money and said, we have to send you to our capital. You have 2 choices. First, arriving capital by car. Second, arriving capital by airplane. I said, okay, airplane is good. But they said, if you go airplane, you must to listen to us, obey us, and without any chain, without any iron chain, we will fly to Astana soon. Okay, I agreed. And I said, I believe now, I believe in people. And then I'm innocent, I haven't any crime. Okay, go to Astana. And I fly to Astana. And in that moment, how could I say? All my rooms is bloody. Why? Because I pushed the door back. I backed the door with my left shoulders, just like this. I pushed the door just like door, in that way. And my hands in this place, my skin is broken now. And the blood is from my legs in that places. Because I just pushed the door, that like this. And all my legs, my foot, bloody. Bloody, and blood is not stopped immediately. And I asked him, I want to stop my blood. Because my legs broken, why? Because he pushed the door and kicked the door, kicked it very hard. And I backed the door also very hard. But without any fighting. After that, I began to clean my body, and the next day my followers visited my hotel room, and everywhere is bloody, and they recorded the video and published it. After that, everything is, you know, the foreign media began to pay attention to this case, and foreign embassy, consulate began to call to our government why you are arresting the human rights advocacy groups leader and the builder, and so many questions and so many world famous organizations pay attention to my case. After that, everything you know. But they put me to jail 1 day and 1 night, and next day they said they will put me to under house arrest. Under house arrest, it means which city, which city. It is in bylaw, it must be Almaty, because the people living in house arrest in the place he registered there, and they really live there. I live in Almaty for 20 years. I visited maybe 10 times only Astana. I don't like Astana. I don't like It is so cold. I love Almaty. I live in Almaty 20 years. I think the house arrest in Almaty. But she said, you have to stay in capital, not Almaty. I said, I haven't any house at Astana. All my family members, friends, all in Almaty. How could? In our law, house arrest must be in my house. But she said, you have to write. You haven't any choice. Sentencing to jail or stay in house arrest. You have to find one house from Astana to you and stay there. No choice.
Серікжан, after they sentence you for 7 years of not doing it,
After they give me next month all court, then I have so many good speeches on court against to our local officials. I published so many very good famous speeches on courts, and all my speech which I said every court, it is watched by my followers millions of times, every videos. And Zela held 6 courts. At 6 court, I make a speech, and every speech is translated to Russian server and watched by millions of people. And they arrested me, and it is very helpful to my case. And the people began to pay attention. Why they arrested Mr. Serikžan, a good person who helps the women lost their husband, the good person who helps the children who lost their parents. Most of them were one. And the people began to pay attention. Why? What happened in China? What happened in China to the ethnic minorities, Kazakhs, Uyghurs, Kyrgyz, Uzbeks, Tatars? And it is very helpful. So I have to say thanks to our government. And it is good for me and good for me to my nation. And it is just like one advertising to our case. And the more millions of people begin to pay attention what happened in China. And after the sentenced me at 16th of August 2019, because they sent me 15th August 2019, and the next day they sentenced me at August 2019. I have to say one famous person. He joined my case. The advisor of our president, Mr. Қасым-Жомарт Tokayev. Mr. Қасым-Жомарт Tokayev sent his advisor 5 times to me while I'm staying at Astana under house arrest. The house belongs to the house arrest. The house belongs to Mr. Bekzat Maksudkhan, now our new leader of our ATAJURT. And after they arrested me, my team member chose the one new leader, Bekzat Maksudkhan, and I agreed with it. And I back up. I back up Mr. Bekzat Maksudkhan, and I support Mr. Bekzat Maksudkhan. And I stayed 6 months, almost 6 months in his house at Astana. And 15th August, they sent me to Almaty by officials, maybe with arms, maybe with some weapons, I don't know. And the officials sent me to Almaty, to my house. And after almost 6 months, from the 11th March 2019 to the 15th August 2019, we didn't see each other. And my 2 children, 5 years old Suleiman, and only 2 years old Abdurrahman, my 2 sons. And they saw me after almost 6 months. After 5 months and 5 days. And Mr. Maksat Iskakov joined my case. Mr. President Қасым-Жомарт Tokayev sent his first advisor to me 5 times while I'm staying at Astana, and Mr. Bekzat he told me that he asked me to make one playing bargain, how to say, make a bargain agreement with government. And he said that directly, there are no choice. Government want to sentence me, but sentence me, it will only make the angry people. People you're angry with it, because people hate China. People hate China making genocide in Xinjiang. People hate Chinese expansion at Central Asia. Especially the Kazakh, Kyrgyz, Uzbeks begin to hate Chinese expansion in Central Asia. And there are so many demonstrations. And my followers, my supporters, made so many demonstrations on Astana city. You know, after they arrested me at the 11th March 2019, and after 1 week, Mr. Nazarbayev, our president, after 30 years, he first time made the announcement that he want to retire. And he said that a new person, Mr. Tokayev, will work as the president of Kazakhstan in 1 week. They arrested me first, 11th March, and after 1 week, the 19th March, Nazarbayev announced that he want to go retire. And after 1 week, our capital's name is changed from Astana to Nur Sultan. And the people, every court which held in Astana for me, thousands of people joined the court, thousands of people outside the court supported me and make demonstrations. There are so many flags, paint my photos, and they also make one T-shirt and printed my photo, and they named me to the Nobel Peace Prize. And one of the famous writers who call it the Guandek Shamakai, name is Guandek. He is a famous journalist and a famous writer, and he is the first person who wrote one big book about the education campus in Xinjiang, China. And he is the first person who wrote in Kazakh language about genocide in Xinjiang, China. And he named me the Nobel Peace Prize. And thousands, more than 10,000 of people signed on it, especially social media and on paper also. And after then, more and more people support me. More and more, every court, more and more people, and especially social media. There are a big, how could I say, big wave. My name is very more and more popular after they arrested me. And that's good, I think. And Mr. Maqsat, the advisor of our president, said, our government has pressure from Chinese side because we need the Chinese money, Chinese investment, and Chinese soft power. And the people who tied to Beijing is more and more powerful in Kazakhstan also. So we have the choice. We have to satisfy Chinese government, and we have to satisfy Western country. You have to satisfy both of them. And we have to sentence you. If you not agree with us, you have to stay in jail for 7 years or 10 years. He said, no any choice. That's true. And he showed me with his mobile phone how he visited Mr. Aron Atabay, how he visited Mr. Ана жерді ауылда түрмеде отырған жігіттің Макс Бокаев, one of the opposition who work against the Chinese expansion in Kazakhstan. Max Bokayev now in jail, Aranatabai in jail. And he showed me 6 or 7 videos which he make agreement with them in jail because he said by president, and he said, I will release you, but you have be sentenced for 7 years to making any kind of political activities, leading any kind of working as a leader of any kind of political groups. So I said, I have a choice. Yes, you have. And at the last court, which held in 16th August 2019, the court is begin, and the Maqsad Iskakov is also at Maqsad Iskakov. At the 15th August, while they sent me, Almaty Maqsad Iskakov visited my house. And we eat together and drink the tea together. And the Maqsad Iskakov talked with me and with my wife so long time. At the middle of night, he go back his hotel, and he said, next morning at 7 a.m., let me call him if I agree with him. But at 7 a.m. I didn't call him because I don't like to accept condition. His condition is how could I say, recognize my crime, said I'm making conflict between China and Kazakhstan, and I think I haven't done a crime until now. But he said, government must do sentence me. So at 7 o'clock he flied to Kizilorda, and at 9 o'clock one national security visited me, and he said he will send me to court. But before they send me court, they arrested Mr. Bekzat Maksutxan. And Bekzat Maksutxan, we are neighbor. I'm living at Akkent, number 28, and next Bekzat Maksutxan is number 29. And that's special, but they declared that the court will begin at 10 a.m., but they didn't send me to court. And after then, Mr. Mansat called me, what do you think? I said, do you sure that you could give me freedom? Actually said, if you sign that plain bargain agreement, I will give you freedom. Court will make a decision to let you go out from the court, but you will lose your political freedom. Okay. I said, could you fly back to Almaty from Kizilorda? And he said, he will fly. And we waited. At almost 6 o'clock, I don't remember the clear time, he back, and the court said the court will begin at evening 8 p.m. And the court continued to 23 and 55 minutes, almost 5 minutes to next day. 6 hours at the court, I signed it, and in that moment, Mrs. Ayman Umar said that he asked the court to give me 1 more month. I'm so surprised. I asked Mrs. Ayman, why? Why 1 more month house arrest? Even 1 hour, I don't like to kept in house arrest. I don't like the policemen watching me all around the clock. House arrest, I don't like to go out from my house. My house is so little, only 50 quadrat meter. So little. I don't like. Even 1 more hour, I don't like to stay at house arrest. But Mrs. Ayman said, without my agreement, Mrs. Ayman said to court, she didn't read any kind of paper about my case, so she needed time, and she needed 1 more hour. I shouted with her. I said, I don't like. it is almost half year passed. You got all my case, 5 books, A4 paper, 5 books, maybe more than 5,000 pages. Any kind of conclusions, decisions, сараптаманы дейді. Certificates, everything on my cases. Oh, how could you say you need 1 more month? I don't like it. My nation in China, they are burning by Chinese government. Every day they are arresting hundreds of thousands of them. And I know it, people tell me secretly. And I needed to help them, even secretly. So I needed to work, any kind of method. I hadn't any choice. I needed to help people. Even they sentenced me for 7 years by paper. Because they afraid that I'm being a leader of people. Because millions of people watching me every time. Even one word speech, I said million times people watch it from the social media. So I said, I give up you. I abandon you. I need a new lawyer. If you need 1 month, I have time. Not 1 month, even 1 hour, I have time. So I said to court, I need a new lawyer. And the court agreed with me. Do you want to write paper to give up Mrs. Ayman Umarova? I said, yes, I'm right. I said, I don't like Mrs. Ayman Umarova to work as my lawyer. I will give up her by my wish. And I invite Mr. Shunquat Baijan work as a lawyer of the Han Chinese in Kazakhstan. Never fight with them, never make any kind of conflict with them. Just make video testimonies, just writing on paper and send it to our foreign affairs minister, send it to our president, send it to our national security, send it all over the world. But our national security cut it off and said, I'm a jihadist. So I agreed with Mr. М.Мақатаев, the first advisor of our new president, and Shunquat Baijan visited the court again. Mrs. Ayman Umarova is out from my court, and Mr. Shunquat Baijan helped me much more, and he watched all the agreement offered by court, offered by Mr. М.Мақатаев, the advisor of our president, and Shunquat Baijan said everything is okay. It is just the one agreement. They will sentence you for 7 years. You will lose your political freedom, but you will free. And you will live with your wives, children, with your wife, with your children, and family, happiness. My wife also happy, my 2 children also happy. And they said, I can't work as a leader of any kind of political party, but I could work any kind of work as an assistant or a translator of that ATAJURT. I could work. My lawyer said it. My lawyer said it. You could work as a lawyer. It is not important to me to working as a leader of one organization or working as a leader of any kind of ATAJURT. It is important to me that the first important thing is let me help my nation. We helped hundreds of Uyghurs. We helped more than 20 Kyrgyzs. We helped more than 5 Tatars, Uzbeks, even huge Muslims. We call it the Dungans. And we helped more than 10,000 Kazakhs. So it is my wish. And I agreed it and signed it. And at the evening of 23 and 55 minutes, I walk out from my car and all my fellows, more than thousands of fellows, welcomed me at the front because they shouted at me, freedom, freedom, freedom. And Серікжанға бостандық in Kazakh language, freedom for Серікжан, freedom for Серікжан. And non-stoply shouted until midnight. And also our government afraid from nation. Because that's happened in Kazakhstan, first time in Kazakhstan history. That kind of court never held in Kazakhstan before. That's the first time's court, thousands of people supporting and shouting, demonstrating outside the court until midnight. That's the first court. And it is began from the first court at Astana city, and the 6 times at Astana, every time thousands of people support me. So that's, I think that's suitable to our government also, second suitable for me, and suitable for nation. The team is built by me almost 4 years ago. If I say from my speech, I built this team from almost 5 years, 6 years ago. Because all the people who followed me up, we know each other from 6, 7 years ago while I teach my nation, immigrate from China. Immediately the genocide will begin. And all the fellows is from that time. And now, by agreement, I can't work as a leader of human rights organizations leader, but now I'm working as a cleaner worker, a translator, a driver in my organizations. Now I'm a driver I'm a driver volunteer, I'm a translator volunteer, and a cleaner also. I'm happy. But next, the new attack is begin, especially on social media and the newspapers. Chinese soft power published almost 10 articles from I began to work at the 30th December 2019. They published more than 10 articles against me.
All right, Серікжан.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you.
Even I don't know your name. Oh,
Jack. Paul.
Jack Paul. Okay. He's from Hong Kong
No, we're going to Hong Kong in 2 hours.
and from England. Your accent is very, I think maybe England.
Very England, yeah.
We're both from Germany.
Germany. Good team,
Yeah.
international team.
Great team.
Yeah. How could you find each other to making that kind of thing?
Oh, it was the universe. One of my friends are acquainted with Jack Paul. Just 1st of January.
Okay, let us make one picture for memory, but we don't publish it until you come back.